I heard the alarm clock buzzing into my ear, telling me to wake up, and I walked out of my bedroom and into the living room to call my boss. I saw Dad sitting in the chair across from the TV. I said, "Good morning, Dad." He didn't respond, which was unusual for him, as he always greeted us when we walked into a room where he was already inside. I started walking closer to him and asked, "Dad, are you okay? You are not usually quiet when I get up." Still, he did not reply, which made me wonder whether he was pissed at me due to what happened last night. Maybe he was going through one of the phases of grief of being forced to pull the plug on 3 of his youngest daughters, and the reality of things had finally hit him. I tried to get his attention and said, "Dad." As I didn't get a reply, I started going near him and bumped into something. I leaned over to see what it was. I realized that it was a torso. I checked for a pulse on his neck, but it was not there. He was dead. I rolled him onto his back to see who he was. I placed a hand against my mouth to prevent myself from screaming when I realized it was Shane. Then I shook him to wake him up. I said urgently, "Shane, Dad, wake up and help me. It's Shane. Dad, please answer me. Somebody, please help me." Then I heard footsteps approaching near me. The person behind me said, "No one is going to help you. They are all dead and you're about to die alone with them, sister." I spun around and found Colleen standing behind me. I asked Colleen, "What have you done? You killed our brother and our parents. They are all we had left in this world." She smiled sinisterly at me and said, "I am not Colleen. I am Willow, and you are not my sister." I started to walk away from her and said, "Okay, Willow, don't kill me. I can help you." Willow's smile widened, saying, "No thanks." Then she lunged at me, tackled me to the ground, and grabbed my throat as I tried to break free from her grasp. Then I started to lose my breath and consciousness as well. The last thing I heard was Willow saying, "Goodbye, Elena and Ara. It would have been nice killing other people with you." I heard a voice telling me, "Wake up and breathe, damn it." I gasped for air and grabbed a nearby knife before realizing it was Nathaniel in my room, calling my name as I placed the blade against his throat. Then he grabbed my wrist to stop me. I apologized to him. He pulled me into his arms and asked, "What were you dreaming about?" I felt a tear run down my cheek. I wiped it away, placed my face against his chest, and said, "My sister and family." Nathaniel let out a breath, pulled me closer, and asked, "What about them?" I felt another tear escape my eyes as I recalled what happened in my dream and said, "My sister had killed us all and showed no mercy towards any of us." Nathaniel pulled away from me, placed a hand under his chin as if deep in thought, and asked, "Are you sure it was a dream and not a vision? People who die in a vision can also look dead in real life. You seemed cold, dead, and buried when I got here." I looked at him with tears in my eyes. He pulled me in tighter and refused to let me go. I asked him, "What are you doing here?" He closed his eyes, rubbed his eyebrows, and said, "Dad is going to make you go after our brothers." I smiled slightly at him, unsure how to respond. Good thing my dad changed his mind about it. However, I want to do it my way, as I want to get to know him first. Nathaniel smiled and said, "I will let him know." I smiled back at him and said, "Thank you." Then he moved away and walked over to the window of my room and opened it. He turned to look at me and said, "Well, I must bid you good night, my love." I was taken aback by what he was saying and had to ask, "Love, when did I become your love?" He turned to look at me and shrugged. Then he climbed out of the window and onto the fire escape. I raised my hand towards my face in frustration. I was thinking about the vision which I saw earlier. What if Colleen is going to be the one destroying our family? We need to get her in more control than she is now. All I know was I needed to find a way or people would get killed by her hands. I don't think she would ever kill our parents, but I do remember the vision. As the door started to open, I sat up and saw Colleen coming inside. Colleen rubbed the back of her neck and asked, "Can I come in?" I smiled at her, raised an arm, waved her in, and said, "Sure, you can't sleep, huh?" Colleen shook her head in the negative, walked over to the bed, and climbed in with me. I wrapped an arm around her and asked, "What's wrong, Colleen?" She glanced down at her hands and said, "I had a bad dream." I looked up and asked, "About what?" I could see her eyes welling with tears as she said, "About killing our family." I wiped the tears away from her eyes and asked, "You or Willow?" She looked down at her hands and said, "Willow." I looked down at my bed and asked, "Do you have such dreams often?" Colleen's eyes widened, saying, "I had never had such a dream before. The death of our sisters have resulted in havoc inside me." I rubbed the back of my neck and said, "It happened with both of us. We must train ourselves and not lose control of our other selves again." She glanced down and said, "We will figure everything out." I looked towards the ceiling and said, "I refuse to lose control. Let's make a pact." She smiled and said, "Okay, what's the pact about?" I grabbed her hand and said, "If either of us ever loses control, we will end the other person's life immediately, so anyone else doesn't get killed. Promise?" She shook her head and said, "Promise." I looked at her, knowing one day soon I might have to kill her. The mere thought of it scared me, just like killing our brother. Colleen looked at me and asked, "Can I sleep with you tonight, Elena?" I smiled, patted my bed, and said, "Yes, you can." She wrapped her arms around me and said, "Thank you." We lay down together, and then I closed my eyes and fell asleep.